Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Nothing has changed. I'm still Tariq Abdul-Tawwab, and I'm still here with my wonderful co-host, Danielle Holmes. Say hello to the people, Danielle.
Hello.
And today we talked about, on our last episode, how we would be doing candidate spotlight. So today we have a special treat for you all. Today we have with us the esteemed Ms. Rukia Lumumba, who is running for Mississippi House of Representatives for District 72. So we'd like to thank her for joining us today.
Thank you.
We extend our invitation to everybody, so we're very happy when politicians or people running for office accept that invitation and come to speak to the people, because that really lets us know how serious they are. So welcome, Ms. Lumumba.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here on Empower the Sipp.
Yes.
Yes.
Empower the Sipp.
Organized voices.
Organized voices of the
Mississippi.
South.
And we appreciate you coming, because this actually helps us organize these voices, especially someone that's running for a position that's as powerful as yours. So just to start off with, this may seem like just a regular generic question, but we always want to know the motivation, right? We always want to know the why behind the what. So what made you decide to run, especially looking at all the work you've already done for Jackson, right, and for the surrounding parts of Mississippi? What made you decide to run for state representatives? And even though a lot of us and a lot of you all may know it, talk to us about the qualifications that make you the best choice.
Yeah. So one, again, I want to say thank you, right? Seriously, thank you for the opportunity to be on the show. It's important for people to be able to hear directly from me, and it's venues like this that give candidates like me an opportunity. So I just want to say thank you, and I want to say thank you to everyone who's listening, everyone who's tuned in. Thank you for taking the time to hear what I have to say and for joining the show. So I'm Rukia Lumumba.
And you don't often get that, guys, so you need to appreciate that, right? Usually you get the folks up here looking like you're doing them a favor, so it's refreshing to hear somebody appreciative of you all's viewing. So I'm sorry.
Yes, absolutely. So I am Rukia Lumumba. I am running for state representative for House District 72. One, because I was asked to do it by community members.
Yes.
Because I was called to do it out of the necessity of a lack of representation in our district that actually takes into mind, into question, into heart the will and the desires of the people of District 72 and of Mississippi altogether. Oftentimes we see elected officials get into office, we see policies passed, and we learn about it after the fact. So I'm running with a different way of thinking, right? I'm running with a different idea of what governance should look like. I believe that we as community members deserve the right and the responsibility to develop and determine the laws that govern our lives, and then have the right to find out how we want that implemented and be the ones that actually implement it. We are the developers. And so as state representative, my goal is to do business different than we've ever seen in the Mississippi State House. That means increasing access to information to community members like you, to residents. That means inviting you into the process of policy making, into the process of decision making, and into the process of seeing that policy implemented. And so that requires us to do different work. It requires me to constantly engage with community members to learn what are your priorities, and then learn what are your solutions. And I've been doing this work already for a long time through our work through the Jackson People's Assembly.
I was just about to say, this sounds like one of the assemblies that have been on the news surrounding water, surrounding issues, surrounding everything that's happening. So this isn't, you have a history of including the community. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, since I was in high school, I've been engaging community in work that makes us more self-determined, in work that actually gives us the power and the resources to dictate our better quality of life, what that looks like. In high school, I started by developing a summer camp that worked with over 200 young people every summer for 4 years, free of charge. Operated that out of West Jackson on Martin Luther King Boulevard, not far from Mary C. Jones Park. We did that by kind donations from community members. Grocery stores would donate food so that we were able to provide breakfast, lunch, and an afternoon snack to every child. We picked up children every day. This is me and my high school friends, right? I had experienced summer camps all my life, and had the blessing of how that helped me develop, and I wanted to see the same thing for other young people who hadn't had the experience. And so, I don't wait for someone else to do it. I just start to do it. I find the people in the right place at the right time who are ready, and then I work. And so that was one of my first efforts, and that was back in high school. But if you go forward, when I went away to Tougaloo College, I have a history of advocacy. I have a history of organizing. I have a history of caring for the better quality of life for our people, period. And so when I was at Tougaloo, I ran for Miss Tougaloo, became Miss Tougaloo. But before I took my crown, I said we have to institute a Mr. Tougaloo policy. What most people don't understand is that Miss Toogaloos or a university Tougaloo or a university queen gets benefits. You get free housing, you get free food, you get book vouchers. And so it didn't make sense to me that we wouldn't have a similar position for males on campus. And so if you had a Miss Tougaloo, why wouldn't you have a Mr., right? And so I refused to take my crown until they actually established a Mr. Tougaloo, or really approved my Mr. Tougaloo policy that I had drafted and developed. So to this day, now there's a Mr. Tougaloo at Tougaloo College, and he gets the same benefits as a Miss Tougaloo. Fast forward ahead.
And I can't just let that slide. That's extremely important. Sometimes the little things make big impact, right?
That's right.
And especially where we're always talking about topics of our men and our women arguing, and the differences in us that cause issues. To hear you talk about, and we talk about inclusiveness all the time, right?
Absolutely.
Who's looking out for everybody? To hear that was something that came from you, saying, I'm not willing to take this unless a guy gets his as well. We need a lot more of that today, but we have some of our men standing up and some of our women standing up and doing that for each other. But that may seem like a small thing, but I just think that's huge. To my fellas out there, I just think that's huge, especially because it was food included in there. That's a big thing. She wasn't willing to just take that for herself. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I had to highlight that.
Tarek had to point out the food.
Yeah. You're gonna give me free food, and there was nothing. And that's the whole point. She could have just took her award and gone about her business. But I think, just like the summer camp, and I hope you'll speak to a little more. I think that talks to a little bit more about what you talked about the will and desires of the people, and about making sure people know about things, before it impacts them.
Yeah,
so I think that's a great point. That's what I'm trying to hear from candidates, is who's going to let us know what's happening before we find out by waking up, driving down the street, and then finding out the reality when we have no chance to change it.
Yeah, well, let's jump right into that. We saw that happen this year. We saw this year, starting in January of this year, we learned of aggressive legislation that threatened our democracy, our voting rights, our right to elect judges, our right to protest.
Sound like a Mississippi I once knew. I once read about.
Right, an old Mississippi that we're not trying to bring back. And so, during that time, I organized with my colleagues, including Danielle Holmes, organized the Jackson Undivided Coalition, which is a coalition, the first of its kind, that has brought together the major grassroots and grass tops organizations and legal organizations across the state of Mississippi, brought together to really fight for the rights of Jacksonians to continue to have a say in how we are governed, how we are electing our judicial representatives, and how we are determining what public safety looks like for us in our own city. And so
is this something where a group of people are just talking about? Is this like something other people can chime in on, give their comments on? Is there?
Absolutely. So one, this was open to community at large. We held protests, we had rallies from January 31st and press conferences all the way until April 23rd. We held sit-ins at the state capitol every week. We also held public hearing.
So when we saw the judge put a temporary hold on that didn't the people need to know that didn't just come because the judge had to change her heart and decided this isn't okay. That came from pressure the Jacksonians, you all included, have been applying to stop this from going through?
So recently, as early as last week, and y'all probably talked about it on your show last week, our coalition had a win.
Yes.
And so through the hard work of Mississippi Center for Justice, the MacArthur Justice Center, we saw the People's Advocacy Institute, which is the organization I represent, the Mississippi Poor People's Campaign, Black Voters Matter, and Mississippi Votes. We came together as plaintiffs to sue the state, to file claim against the state for its use of SB 2343 to prevent our right to protest. We saw a win in Judge Wingate's court where he issued a preliminary.
So they hold on. So just so y'all understand what SB 2343 was, that wasn't even saying that we want to get more out of these people in Jackson and want to do more to them. That was saying we don't want you to say anything about what we're doing to you.
Right.
And I think that's important. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I think that's important because the way that Mississippi has always been able to do what they've been able to do without any type of attention is because they keep the information from getting out. So it's amazing that they feel the best way to get their plan across is to stop us from even protesting.
Right, that's right.
That's amazing.
I just want to be clear that Rekia not only organized this work, but she led this work. And it was a consistent effort. 8 o'clock every morning, they were on coalition calls, right? She was the mediator. She brought the calmness to the storm because, emotions were everywhere. Folks
Sure.
were really enraged by these 2 pieces of legislation that caught us off guard. And so that piece of work happened with Rekia leading it. But then there's so much other work that Rekia has led to that I really want to talk about before her time is up here.
Yeah, no, we got to dip right into
and
that.
we talk
Absolutely.
about one of the significant that has been prevalent this day, and that's the Mississippi Rapid Response Coalition and Network, right? Many people have seen me out on the ground doing the work and leading the ground team, but while I was doing the ground team, Rekia was at home on Zooms and on phone calls trying to get resources here to the city so we could continue to be that ground team, right? And so that leadership that she has done with the Mississippi Rapid Response Coalition, number one, co-founding, finding that coalition, but also really being the behind the scenes person that was making things happen and getting resources here, not just to Jackson, Mississippi, but resources came for the state and even other parts of the United States. When people evacuated here for hurricanes from Texas, from Louisiana, right? It was the Mississippi Rapid Response Coalition that responded, but they responded by way of connections that Rekia had, or however the thousands of boards that she sits on.
Not
But,
thousands.
it's just amazing to see her love and her fight for this state.
And see, the reason you see this intensity
right
right there with my co-host, because she knows that I'm big on politicians that don't come calling when it's time for office. It's something she and I talk about a lot, right?
Right.
Politicians that done nothing for the community. You've never seen them. Then when it's time for votes. So I had, we'll talk about this. And on our last show, we had a caller call in, and we were talking about the candidate spotlight, and we talked about you and the folks running against you, right? And one of the people said, "Yeah, that's the lady that gives stuff out at Rebelwood." And I started laughing, and I said, "No, it's not." But after I talked to her, as my co-host said, it turned out to be this was yet another event that she had pulled along with other people, where apparently you all were out giving out food during storms, giving out money.
Yes.
So I do say it to say I verify everything. Let me just say that to myself. If you say you want to do something on our show, we're going to verify it, right? But one thing that we're huge on here is who has been doing things for Jackson before it was time to need you, right? So I'm going to interrupt a lot. I'm sorry. But I think that y'all need to hear that, right?
And I just believe in giving credit where credit is
Absolutely.
due, right? And so we have to talk, and it must be known. Rekia's not going to toot her own horn, so I'm going to toot it for her, because it's no secret, she is my friend. But if my friends are not qualified, anyone would tell you I don't have a problem with telling them, baby, find you something else
We
to
all
do.
know that.
So, but I know that.
We're going to verify it. If they say something that's not true, you're going to hear it. Okay?
I know
so
that
we verify
Rekia
it.
is the right person for the job. I've watched Rekia with housing, has stopped thousands of evictions from happening. Pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, and even now post-pandemic, right? We talk about the number of families she's helped to bury loved ones, right? Things that people are not talking about. You would never know the number of people that are calling on a daily, just needing resources to get over, or need their medication, may need food. The baby may need formula, diapers. this young lady has shown up in ways unimaginable. And she used to always tell me, Danielle, you are always finding work for us to do, because that need was so much great. It is so great here in this city. But Raquel, I just want to commend you.
Thank you.
And I think it's very important. I know you're not going to toot your own horn because you're humble like that. But the reality is that you've been doing this work.
I have.
Right? You led us to that place of being able to even get, along with the legal team, having this hearing on SB 2343. You stayed the course when I fell off the calls and got angry with everybody. I eventually came back, but I have to take a step back. But Raquel, just give your last few words, but I just really wanted to make sure that folks know the work that you've done in this city.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been an honor to do it, right? Like, it's our
Absolutely.
responsibility. And, you know, I'm grateful that I have the skills, the resources, the connections, the love, because it takes deep love
Absolutely.
to do this work. So I'm very grateful, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to run. I will say, you know, I've done a lot of service delivery work, right? I come from a family that believes you do service work. That's what you do, right? And I have also done a lot of policy work. And this position allows me to take my skills of service and my skills of organizing into the State House to actually help us as community begin to organize differently around what we need, laws we need to keep ourselves protected, to keep ourselves fed, to improve our livable wages, to get a livable wage, to ensure that we have adequate health care, to ensure that we have adequate jobs and opportunities available, that we have proper education for our children, and so much more. And so we need courageous leadership. And I'm that courageous leadership. Look, I'm not entering this race, and I'm sure not entering this office for a career boost. I don't need a career boost.
That's right.
I've been doing this work for long enough. I am entering this because it is necessary. We are at a critical time in our history where we can either go backwards or we can move forward beyond what we've ever seen.
Yes.
And so I am here to do that. It's no longer time to elect someone because they're your friend, because they seem really nice, because their parents are really nice, or their parents done did some work. Everything that I talk about, I've done for myself. I haven't done it on my family name. I've done it through my hard sweat work. And yes, through the example that my parents led. My mother and father were great examples of what it meant to be committed to building a better condition for all people. And so I take their example and I use it to guide my life and my work, because it is necessary that we create a better way, a better existence here in this state and in this nation. And so it's time for us to elect someone like me who's willing to do that. So on August 8th, I'm asking you to elect me, Raquel Lumumba, as State Representative for District 72. It is time for something different. I am that different, and I want to bring you with me. So, thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to bringing you back on the show.
August
to
the
talk
8th,
about
ladies and gentlemen, August the 8th.
your great work and your great programs. We need to hear more from you.
Yes, and I have so many
Well, we'll bring her back on. This doesn't have to be. We're going to bring her back on. Okay.
Yes.
So when these candidate spotlights, we'll extend this to everybody. Everyone running will extend it. Those that show up, we'll let you see them. So thank you again for coming on the show. It's a pleasure to have you. And we can't wait to see the results of August the 8th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
Take care.
I'm going to take my water.
And
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, Keepers of the Knowledge for People Who Speak the Truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippilink.com and click on Home Delivery.
Do you have something to say? Do you want your voice heard? Join the We Believe Global lineup. Be the star of your own show. For more info, call 800-492-5186, option number 1, or visit online at webelieve.global. Pioneering coronavirus protocol firm SGE COVID Solutions is paving the way forward for a safer city government, delivering cutting-edge biosecurity and biosafety protocols which have been developed internationally by top virologists and scientists, using an all-natural cleaning solution that kills COVID-19 on contact like no other product on the international market. Let SGE COVID Solutions provide innovative, rapid facilities testing and world-class, state-of-the-art biorisk safety protocols for all of your coronavirus needs.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.
Absolutely. Welcome back. So I hope you all enjoyed that candidate spotlight. Please understand that we believe in bringing you information that you need, not just information that's entertainment. So we're going to continue to do those spotlights. And if you don't see somebody on here that you're interested in, it's probably because they didn't respond when we extended the invitation. So look forward to more of that. So I'm back with my wonderful co-host, Danielle Holmes, and we are talking, before you came back, we were talking about water. We're talking about Jackson and we're talking about water, right? And sometimes just saying that's enough here in Jackson.
Yes.
But in spite of everything that's been happening, and those of you that have been under a rock, Jackson has a third-party manager, Ted Hennepin, that has been charged with fixing the Jackson water system. And we've got a lot of calls and complaints from our residents just about not getting information, that they're calling into the call centers, that they're being put on hold, that when they're asking questions, they're not being answered. And you were at the community meeting yesterday that was called by Councilman Stokes, and was attended not by Hennepin himself, but by Carla Dizette, who represents Sustainability Partners. So tell us a little bit about what you learned or didn't learn there.
I think, yesterday the meeting was an informational meeting to let residents know. I guess Councilman Stokes wanted his members, or ward members, to know that the city of Jackson no longer had control over the water and that the water had been taken over by the federal government, right? And so the third-party manager, Ted Hennepin, was not there on yesterday. He's out in Virginia with family and on vacation visiting, and then he'll be out up until August, and so he's not in the city. However,
Hold on. And Danielle cuts me when I interrupt her. So the city council was fully involved with the takeover, right? They in terms of, they're fully aware of it. So Stokes had a meeting yesterday, a councilman had a meeting yesterday to announce that the city of Jackson no longer was in control of the water, something that's been in play for
in other words, there's no need to call your city council person. There's no need to call the city of Jackson, because Jackson has no control over if your water is brown, purple, or blue.
Gotcha. Okay.
If you don't have any water, if your bill is incorrect, all of this is now under the control of Jackson Water, which is led by Ted Hennepin, third-party manager.
So the whole council came out yesterday to meet with everybody?
No,
or just,
this was actually I only saw Councilman Stokes at the meeting on yesterday.
Okay.
And so, and then they were also talking about ways to do the debt relief, to get your bills, your debts relieved. If your bills, you had past due bills prior to December 1, 2022. And so a lot of that happened with, this is the same program that was talked about yesterday with Jackson Water representative, that Councilman Stokes persuade people not to sign up for, saying that the information was fraudulent and that folks just wanted, that the organization just wanted the residents' money.
I remember the press conference. So now he's showing up with Jackson Water in partnership.
He's showing up now with Jackson Water. I don't know the partnership, but I do know that the very same people that he dissuaded not to apply for the debt water relief program were there yesterday crying about their bills, complaining about their bills, and wanting relief. And so that information was again given out, and he did not refute it at that point.
And see, folks, and I'm going to say this, when we have all these conversations, right, about what's happening in our community and about who's doing what, we always love to point to the people that can't be touched, that are so far away, right? And this is just one thing that talks about, you got to start looking at who is local, who's doing what, and why are people doing it. Some of this stuff isn't rocket scientists.
Right.
We don't have to be Nancy Drew here or Perry Mason.
Right.
Some of this stuff is just sitting right in front of us.
That's right.
So you had a problem with the guy when the community was getting something, but now you're showing up with them to give, I guess, some type of legitimacy, so that we'll stop asking questions. But tell me a little more about what happened here. I mean, what information was given?
One of the biggest concerns raised in the meeting on yesterday is that Carla with Jackson Water, or contractor with Jackson Water, that was standing in for Mr. Hennepin, gave notice that Jackson Water has plans to start disconnecting residents' water around the month of August for non-payment. And so whether you have a $5,000 bill or $10,000 bill, from my understanding, if you have a new meter, you will be one of those individuals that are at risk for disconnection. And we know that folks in the city of Jackson, right? We still have people that are on fixed incomes making $7.25 an hour who just literally cannot afford to pay these $5,000 water bills. And even when you get set up on a payment plan, if that happens and works out for you, you must understand that your water bill is still accumulating, right? And so there's really no end road to you paying these extreme high water bills. And when residents are asking, how are they being billed, right? How are you basing their bill? Is it estimate, or are you actually looking at the meter? What is it that's causing my bill? I had a young lady today I spoke with. She said her bill went from $40 to $80 to $110. And this was month after month after month. And it's only her and her husband in the home. And they don't even own a washer and dryer. So they don't know how their bill, and now her bill is $500 and some odd dollars. And so yesterday at the meeting, she was instructed to call Jackson Water and ask for Carla, and Carla would help her with this past due bill and getting an understanding of why the rates, or why her bill was so much more than the $40 initially.
To start off with, that's a big jump.
And so when she called today, she was put on a callback list. She never actually spoke to the person who committed to speaking with her last night at the community meeting. And so here we are. Residents again are being duped, deceived. The city council has just voted to give the third-party manager control over the sewer, the wastewater. And so
we're doing that. He's doing that well. Okay.
I think from a community perspective, and listening to individuals from Flint, Michigan,
yes,
Texas, and in other parts of the country where they are experiencing similar issues to Jackson, and experts, that was one of the worst decisions that the judge could have made, that the city council could have made. And I'm not even sure what questions the city council actually asked, right? But you have a third-party manager who I've met with personally, who has said that he doesn't believe that Jackson should ever have control back over its own water. If residents don't understand...
So you're talking privatization now. That's the beautiful thing. We can say the word. So you're talking, when you're saying that you're getting the feeling that Jacksonians will never have control of the water, the only other option there is privatization.
Absolutely. And that's what we've been against all along, privatization.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely.
So, and then you have this notion.
And I understand why you're against privatization. You don't want to just hear something and roll with it, right? I understand that the state government can affect your water prices, right?
That's right.
And I understand that privatization means that somebody else determines what you pay for water. And if for any reason the water prices get too high here in Jackson, and Jacksonians just don't have the money to keep up, then what do you think happens? You don't get to stay if you can't afford water,
That's
right? And we're already talking about disconnects that are starting to happen. What's amazing to me is in a takeover where you have a situation where we don't have access to clean water, that we're talking about, and that's a shock because I didn't heard it. We're talking about disconnecting bills while we're still doing repairs.
Right, so you're talking about disconnecting folks' water. Some people are still not having water.
What do you disconnect? That's what I'm saying.
The brown water, we're getting calls and we're getting Facebook posts about folks' water has been brown for the last 5 days. If you remember, there was a call out to Carriage Hill subdivision and Cedar Hill subdivision out south, where one subdivision didn't have water and the other subdivision had brown water. And so, the Mississippi Rapid Response Coalition, we're having to respond to these issues. Yet this is a Jackson water issue.
So you mean, we've got $1 billion given by the federal government to fix this, and the Mississippi Rapid Response Coalition has to take money that they're raising to go give people things they need in the city of Jackson while we're sitting on $1 billion.
Absolutely. And there's a lack of collaboration with community organizations that are out here on the ground, ensuring that Jacksonians have access to clean water.
But that seems to be the story every time with Jackson, and it seems like Jacksonians lose first.
Yeah. Hold on, y'all. We have a call coming in.
All right, caller, you are on the air. Welcome to Empowering the Sipp Organized Voices of the South. Who am I speaking with?
Hey, hello.
Okay, I can hear you there, caller. How are you? What do you?
Hey, how y'all doing? Before I ask this question, I just want to say I thank y'all for everything that y'all doing for the city of Jackson, standing up for the people who can't stand up and exposing the corruption and just the little things, passing out water. I thank y'all, man. If y'all ain't heard it enough, y'all gonna hear it from me personally. I want to personally thank y'all.
We appreciate you. Believe me, we thank you because just without you listening, we can't get this information out. And that's one of the ways they keep Mississippians down, especially here, is by robbing us of information. So thank you for taking the time to listen. What you got for us today?
Yeah, I got a quick. Why did the white guy move the call center to Pearl when it was about, I want to say, 15 to 20 black people taking them at the Metro?
Okay, I appreciate your call. Appreciate the question. And that's something I heard. This isn't the first person said it, but thank you, caller. We appreciate you.
Repeat the question.
What he asked was, he said, why did the white guy, we're going to assume he's talking about Ted, the third-party manager, move the calls for the call center for the Jackson Water to Pearl? So you know that we were talking about this on a previous episode. The calls were outsourced to Pearl. And what he's asking is, why are they doing that if there's 15, I think he said 15 to 17 black people working in Mississippi? So this person recognizes his Jacksonians and recognizes what separates us. But it's an important question we have to talk about because this is just coming from calls. We've got 3 calls earlier today. We actually got a call from one of the employees that used to work at Jackson Water who went over the fact that they were answering all the calls and everything was fine, and that they were fully capable. So we've got to do a little more investigating, callers, about that. That's a great question. If we had 15 to 20 people here taking calls for Jackson's water system, and the goal is not to privatize, then why are those jobs being moved to Pearl? I don't think we've got to find an answer.
Yeah, what I will say is that there was a call center up and running, and folks were trained. There were, I think, at least 20 workers that were specifically trained for the call center for Jackson Water, and all 20 of those and all were from Jackson. They were properly trained, answering calls. I think the call the call performance was above 80.
Service level.
The service level was above 80 or 90. And those workers were let go. And so we heard from Ms. Carla last night that they are training new individuals, right? And so folks are having to learn the system. What sense did it make for them to go and get new employees when you had a group of employees already trained, well equipped, well versed on what was going on and what needed to happen?
Yeah.
So,
and see, this is my problem a lot of times here in Mississippi, especially in Jackson, right? And my problem is that you're told often you're not good enough. And I'm sorry, I'm going to say what actions say.
Before we go there,
Yes.
because that needs to close. You need to close out with that.
Yeah, absolutely. She knows what bothers me.
And I know where you're going with that. Right.
What's wrong with Jacksonians? What's wrong with Mississippians that happen to be black? Why aren't we capable enough? But go ahead. I'm sorry.
What I want to hit on is that, one, you're having to retrain folks. You're having to train a workforce when you already had a workforce that was trained, right? Yeah. And so as you not allow politics to get in the play in the way of Jacksonians, we wouldn't be experiencing, or Jacksonians wouldn't be experiencing, this downtime of not either, one, being able to get through to Jackson Water or actually getting real answers to their water bill. But we also want to talk about the narrative that this Jackson Water is clean. And I'm going to ask, we have a slide that actually shows, and if we can bring that slide up, what the pipes look like currently today in the city of Jackson. And this is why, as community members, we have to continue to encourage folks and let them know that at no point will Jackson's water ever be deemed safe when you see pipes as such that's on the screen. That is what your water is traveling through. And so when you have third-party managers or the EPA or the
and that's
Department
today.
of
This
Health,
is not.
Mississippi
That's
State
not.
Department
That's
of
not
Health.
10 years ago. That's
This is what
now.
pipes are looking like today, right? And so
Ridiculous.
from the surface, the water may be clean, but by the time it gets to its delivering site, to its destination, and water traveling through pipes that look like that, old, antiquated pipes, this is what Jackson's infrastructure looks like, right? There's no way you can tell me that water is clean. There's no way you can make a resident comfortable with water traveling through pipes such as that and say that it's clean and safe. We've heard from experts, not infrastructure experts, but we've heard from water quality experts who know, who's out here still testing homes. Brown University is here in the city of Jackson now, testing water.
So we're gonna get some answers as to whether
they're
we're
testing
being told.
water, and they're already telling me that what we're seeing is very alarming. And so what we have to get the judge to understand, what we have to get the Jackson City Council to understand, and what we also want community to understand, is that the third-party manager is an expert at fixing water infrastructure, but he isn't an expert at water quality. And so those are two different types of expertise that needs to be separated, and community needs to be in the middle of these conversations, right?
Absolutely.
Because now community members have now become experts of this water,
so
because they've been dealing with it for so long.
It's almost like the one is an expert of building the bottle, the other is expert of the quality of water that goes in.
That goes into
two
the
separate
bottle.
things, and the community
Absolutely.
doesn't understand. And I agree 100%. The community needs to be more involved. One of the great things I loved about our candidate spotlight on this episode was the candidate talking about community involvement. But that's for any candidate that's doing that, right? They need to be involved, and also Jacksonians need to ask questions about why we're not good enough. I'm going to push that in every area in Jackson that I see work being given out. I had someone walk up to me when I was out there the other day promoting the show, right? And they said to me, well, you all are talking about water. Tell us why trucks with Brandon on the side of them are fixing our lines. These are the questions that we really need to ask. What is wrong with Jacksonians?
And can we just live?
Can we just live?
Don't kill
Absolutely.
us. Can we just live? That's our desire, is to live.
Look, it's
right?
something that's going wrong. I'll tell you that.
It's gotten too much.
It's gotten out of control. I did corporate training for over 6 years, and let me tell you something. I work with people in Jackson all the time. There is nothing different about a person in Jackson than a person in Pearl. That much I can tell you. The person, and then you want to retrain folks. If we had folks that already working, so we've got to ask those questions. And folks, y'all have to ask those questions, because it's fine for us to sit up here and talk about it, right? But you all are in those places. You all are with the city council members. You all are there. You got to ask these questions. When stuff's right in front of you, stop looking for it to be some type of conspiracy. Sometimes he just puts it right in front of you for you to see it, but if you're not going to act on it, then that's on you.
Absolutely. And we're going to continue to enlighten the community. We're going to continue to enlighten the state. We're going to continue to talk about what's going on across the South, because it's very important that not only are we have organized voices of the South, but we're constantly organizing voices of the South, because it's going to take us all, because so goes the South, so goes this country.
And your voice. Understand, the only reason we call this organized voices is because it's alive, that you can call in and say something, right? You can jump in and have an opinion. And to Danielle's point, if we're not all a part of it, especially the people that are living this, we're living this. We're going to go home tonight and actually check our water before we get in the shower. We're going to go home tonight and actually check our water before we cook. So if you're living that, stop feeling like you can't open your mouth and say something. If you see something that's suspicious, if you see something that doesn't look right with what's being done with your taxes, your money, your water system, your schools, when we look at every other school, the PWIs are getting all these new jumbotrons and new schools, and then Jackson's told, well, you can't build a new structure. You can fix up the junk you have. Right? We know that that's happening. And thankfully, we don't have a hand in the pocket. So there's nothing stopping us from telling you the truth.
We ain't bald, so we're here to just tell the truth. And we're going to talk about what others are not talking about.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk about poverty. We're going to talk about Mississippi being the poorest state in this country.
We're going to talk about FEMA's responses to Mississippians when a tornado happens.
The disparities in communities.
It's not the commercials we see with FEMA, right?
That's
when we were down in Rolling Fork, when these happened, when we're down in Lexington, they weren't even there in some of these places. And we really going to talk about that, right? Because when you do the work for the people, you see who's not there. And you shouldn't take all the time talking about who's not there. You should talk about solutions. But at a certain point, you've got to make sure that these narratives are being challenged.
And we definitely need to talk about why Mississippi has not raised its living wages since 2009. And living wages are $7.25 $7.25 an hour. So everything is going up except for wages. We're going to talk about universal health care and why
the governor can send back over $80 million in federal aid, saying Mississippians don't need it, especially black Mississippians.
Especially black Mississippians. So we're going to talk. We're
can't make this up.
We're not here to bash. We're here to give the truth. We're going to talk the truth. We're going to, for real, we're going to hammer down on poverty. There's no reason why one candidate that I've heard, and that's been Rukia Lumumba, really, to talk about issues that are real serious here and put Mississippi
The other
on the
candidates
map.
reach out to us. We want to hear from all of
Mississippi
you.
is last in everything good and first in everything new. And we're also going to talk about
Last
the gun
in everything.
violence and the open carry law
And how that affects
and
Jackson.
how that affects Jackson.
We always talk about the city. Now, this is one thing that I'll bring up. We always talk about wanting the city to do something and wanting JPD to do something. And we should hold people accountable. We also have to talk about how these laws are being changed to hurt our communities intentionally. I mean, I remember back, and we're going to wrap up, but I remember back when the gun shows, we were begging the governor not to bring these gun shows to Jackson because we knew that drug addicts were going there and buying guns and giving them to
Yeah.
our young people,
Oh, yeah.
right? And what did the governor do in response? He made sure that it was heavily advertised and he bought it right back.
Politicians
Yeah.
are heavily in the pockets of NRA, and so they're very scared to talk about gun laws. Right,
This needs to be-
reform,
this is us, guys. We're not
gun
covering up.
control. They're afraid,
Yeah.
and so because this is where they get their campaign donations.
And let me say this, and this is the last thing I'll say, and then we're going to wrap it up
gonna
because
wrap
our
it up.
producers over there giving us ugly eyes, right? Marvin Sapp has a great song called Close, right? And I want all you all to listen to it because a lot of times when you're in a city that's under attack, right? When Jacksonians are being attacked, you feel like that there's nothing there. But that song talks about how the devil comes when you get close to what you're trying to get.
Yes.
And I don't think Jackson, Mississippi understands how close it is
That's right.
to controlling its own destiny. And this is the only place in these United States of America that black folk are able to impact what happens to them tomorrow in every sense of the word. So please don't think they're coming for you with these laws and this legislation because you're to be picked on, jumped on. They're coming for you because you're getting too strong. You're powering up. And we're going to be right there to keep you powered up. So
So
thank you
until the
again
next
for tuning
time,
in.
we'll continue to empower the
Yes.
SIP with the truth.
And we'd like to give a special shout out. We always like to highlight
Yes.
people here in Jackson, Mississippi, our people doing things for ourselves. And this is Signature Blend. It's called Earth Blend Coffee. We actually drink it here in the office. It's made by Mr. Socrates, who is a longtime business owner here in Jackson.
Socrates Garrett.
Socrates Garrett, who believes, by the way, in employing the people that live in the communities he works in. And all people that make money, all skin folk and kinfolk. So we always want to highlight that. He has excellent coffee. You can reach out to us if you need more information on it, but pull it up online, order some. You're supporting someone that's supporting Jackson. From my beautiful host and not so handsome host, thanks once again, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.